Hey everyone, welcome to the Vienna Whyte Roundtable Season 1, Episode 24. I'm your host, Millie Rouge from the band Vienna Whyte. This roundtable is a Yank music production. Thank you all for being a part of the show today. Carole, can you start this talk off today by introducing yourself and where you're from and a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm Carole. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I'm about 30-something years old. I got into the art lifestyle a little bit late, but I'm a performance dancer and also just started my own podcast, and I do some writing for articles and stuff on the side.
Fantastic, very cool. Yeah. And Cory, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi. My name is Cory Sterling. My artist name is Red Stripe Down. I am a lifelong musician and electronic music producer. I live in Chicago, and hello.
Thank you all. Welcome, everyone. I gotta say, Cory, I really love your setup behind you. It's very, very cool.
Right?
I'm like, there's so many chords. I'm like, what do they all do?
I do that to distract the audience from my very uninteresting person.
Well, it's got all these flashing lights and chords. It looks awesome.
I thought it'd be cool to see me in workspace. I feel that will help illustrate the point and maybe what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's actually start off with you, Cory. Can you kind of give us a quick 2-minute introduction to your musical journey and kind of how you started out where you were and how you are today in the music journey you are now?
Yeah, sure. So I started music when I was very young, probably 11 or 12. And I grew up playing bass guitar. I attended Berklee College of Music, studied music, have played professionally as a bassist for a lot of years. After college, I felt a little burnt out on music in general and being creative. And I think a lot of that had to do with the academic process in music. And this is something that, if anybody knows me out there, I've talked a lot about before. Kind of dismissing the academia in music, I fell in love with synthesizers and electronic music and instruments that really had no rules. So I could kind of make them up for myself and do something creative that was purely for me, as opposed to trying to be a good musician or good at a particular task or genre or whatever. So that's a few years ago. I mean, almost 10 years ago now. I fell in love with synthesizers, and it's kind of taken over my life, and here we are.
It's a good life to have, absolutely. I actually spoke with someone yesterday who also went, well, I think she just graduated from Berklee College, so it looks like we've got a lot of Berklee alumni. I love it.
yeah, we're out.
That's awesome. Fantastic. And Carole, can you give a little introduction about your artistic journey?
Yeah. My journey is like almost the opposite of Cory's. So I alluded to it earlier. I didn't start off dancing when I was little, even though I loved it, but my parents were very practical. So they said, no, you're a girl, so you need to learn Kung Fu because that's what's going to serve you if you use it to protect yourself. And I hated it. Going to Kung Fu class, I would always imagine that like sneak in and watch other girls learning ballet, and I wish I was them. And I don't think I really started looking into dance until I was like 22, and there was a friend who was doing burlesque, and not to be rude, but the entry level for burlesque is pretty low. Like you can just be creative, right? And that's a good place to start. You don't need a lot of technique, and so we started there. And then the other day years down the road, I saw someone advertising for go-go dancing for a music festival, which plays electronic music. And I auditioned for it. I didn't get it. But then I went back for a year of classes, and then I finally got in. So it was like a lot of working hard, a lot of like disappointments. But I definitely am a firm believer that's never too late to start anything, because I know I got there. But it definitely took a lot of like humility and like humbling experiences to get there, for sure.
For sure, yeah. And I really love that you've got like more than one kind of artistic creative side. Like you've got your writing, you've got kind of that podcast, which is more that radio style entertainment. And then right, that's, I think, well, usually a lot of artistic people, they don't just have one field in the arts. Usually they have their feet kind of dipped into every kind of thing that they like doing that's artistic. I know for me, at least, that's how I feel. But
yeah, it's important though. You learn different skills from different areas that help you in the other ones. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and now this kind of leads into our topic of the day. Thank you everyone for sharing about your artistic journeys. So our topic for today is actually the role of art in society. So it sounds very like scholarly and very high and important, but this is actually a very, very common thing. And I think it's definitely something that's happening a lot more now with everyone's current situation of being kind of at home now a lot more than they used to be. So my first question I'm going to open up to the both of you. Do you think art / entertainment in society is important? Why or why not? Do you want to start this one off, Cory?
Sure. Well, yeah, of course I think it's important.
I would really hope so.
I truly do believe that everybody has some type of artistic side and some type of creative side, and that everybody needs some type of outlet like that. What's a funny example of that is George Bush, who started painting, right?
I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that.
That's the last guy I would expect to be sitting down and, busting out his easel and mixing colors and getting into that headspace. But yeah, I think it's tremendously important. And especially now, I know people who don't have a creative outlet, I don't want to say hobby necessarily, but they don't have that thing that keeps them happy at home.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a shame. There's so many different ways to express yourself in different outlets, and there's more ways than ever to learn about them, find materials if needed, or whatever. But yeah, absolutely. I think it's probably the only thing everybody who's out there who's binging Netflix right now. I mean, I think that arts and entertainment are kind of what's keeping us together at this moment.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. If we didn't have half the stuff we have right now, I don't know what I actually don't know what I would do with myself. Like, I think I would just build a bunch of stuff, or maybe like go hunting, like go way back and go hunting. Cause I'd be like, what else can I do?
Yeah, you've got to do something. So you tap into that spot in yourself. And the thing I think is most important, and I think the stigma comes with every form of art, whether it's dance or music or painting or whatever it is, or stand-up comedy, is that everybody can do it. You don't have to be good at it to enjoy it, to appreciate it, and exercise that muscle in your brain. If everybody was great at it, then it would be really boring.
Yeah.
If you knew something already, then what is there to learn? So I think it's, just like Carole has her foot dipped in a lot of different creative outlets. I think that's really important. Because you're going to learn. She mentioned Kung Fu and then got into dance, and I think like those two things are
No, don't say that. Don't say that. That means my parents were right in some way, and I don't want to.
Don't give them the credit.
No. I refuse.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Now, Carole, I'm curious to kind of know what you think with your background. Do you think arts and entertainment is important in society?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like the great thing about art entertainment is that it does show that anyone can do it. And it's true, not everyone can do it well, but everyone should at least attempt it, because even though if you can't do it well, there's so much benefits like mentally and emotionally for you, that you should definitely pursue it. Like you definitely shouldn't be deterred because you feel like, oh, well, it's a waste of resources or efforts. And I think there was this quote or this meme that was floating around, I'm paraphrasing it horribly, but saying something about how now with the world the state it is in, it's like now we can really appreciate like what's actually important to us. It's like the artists, right? The artists, the people who are the frontline workers. It's not the CEOs or the people who are, holding the strings. So
well, and I think too, like art, I've actually seen what you're referring to, and it was actually really interesting, a little side rant, but how they said, like this is also a time where I think people can now really truly start to appreciate like essential workers that are maybe not deemed as important as like a CEO, for example. So someone that works in a grocery store is now become like a holy god. So it's like, I think it's making us really take back a lot of things, especially with art. And I think people, I would hope people are starting to realize like yeah, I need to appreciate filmmakers more and people that are doing like local indie films, and maybe show them my support, because this is like not easy to do. And here they are just like giving us their art, and we're just most of the time taking it for a very cheap price, which is another discussion topic I won't dive into.
Oh, totally. Whether or not to pay artists the exposure, right? Yeah, that's enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's the great thing. Like once people start dabbling in it, they realize like, oh my goodness, something that I thought was so easy, like the simple little 3-minute choreography took me 3 hours to learn.
Yeah.
Like now I can appreciate those backup dancers so much more. And that can be a whole rant too about how dancers are underappreciated.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So my next question for you both, what do you think are some of the most major changes of art in society over the years? So what do you think, I mean, this doesn't have to be an exact timeline, but what do you think has really shifted to where we are now in kind of how we view art in society? What do you think's changed? Do you want to maybe start this one off, Carole?
Yeah, I definitely think like ways of dissemination, like before, just like way back to appreciate like works of art, you had to go to a church or a gallery, you had to have means. And now it's like everyone has access to a smartphone and internet, and you can just, go on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. And it's very quick to show and share your art that way. And I think it is a better launch pad, a better way to onboard people for who are like dabbling or starting and getting into the industry. I think I need to think on that one a little bit more.
Yeah. And Cory, what kind of ideas do you have around this? What's kind of what you think?
Well, I think you make a good point, that art is so available, and you're right. You used to have means to appreciate it. You used to be able to have to afford, right? It was a luxury. And now it's everywhere, which is a double-edged sword, because it's great because we can all see everything. I can get any bit of information or see any famous piece of artwork or piece of music or piece of dance or whatever ever created in 10 seconds, right? But because of the oversaturation of content and material, it also devalues what we do as well. And it's a little bit harder for people to stick out and to make a name for themselves, because they're competing with literally millions of others. Again, great, because those people are doing that and enjoying that process. But it can be tough, it can be to be appreciated as an artist. And as you grow, it can be frustrating because you're growing and improving, but you don't really have much to show for it other than, I guess what's in here, which is ultimately what's most important, I suppose. But, it can be an uphill climb.
I feel like sometimes it's easier for new artists to stand out with a gimmick. And I think that maybe like artists who've been more like classically educated are frustrated by that. Like that guy who did the performance bit with a banana duct taped to the wall.
Yeah.
Right? And that sold for like a lot of money. And so like all those people who are like classically trained, who've gone to colleges are like, what? I could have done that? But I think gimmicks really grab attention really easily, but they don't last long, but still it's frustrating to see.
It is. That's a really good point, because I mean, I probably wouldn't have interacted with most of you like that I've been interviewing if it hadn't been for the internet, right? So it definitely has that like positive, negative, and I think it's just kind of hoping to find a right balance, which can definitely be tough for sure.
I'll get there. I think this is still a new phenomenon that we can do this. And social media was figuring out everything. One positive thing of this crisis, as you mentioned, is that there is a focus on art and small businesses and things like that. So maybe we'll come out of this with a little bit more appreciation.
I really hope so. It's really hard to tell, because I think a lot of people, they've been saying a lot like, oh, when everything's over, I'm going to be so happy and I'm going to be out all the time. And I'm like, I think people really think that's what's going to happen, but we're really not sure. Like, I think it's so easy to fall into habit, right? So
it might be like this little period where we are, and then it just like, we revert back to what we know, right? Like creatures of habit and all that. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, this actually perfectly ties into what we were just saying. My next question, During a time like this where everyone is at home, do you think people are truly seeing the value in entertainment more now during what's going on? Cory, I know you kind of tapped into this, so do you want to kind of expand on that a little more?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, absolutely. I feel that people are appreciating those things. I've seen a lot of people on social media going back through their old record collections and getting nostalgic for albums or CDs they had when they were kids and kind of revisiting that because now they have the time to get back into that younger self or whatever it is. So yeah, I feel that, also this makes everybody kind of look at their mortality a little bit differently. And when you look for meaning in your life, there's not a whole lot of things that really stick out. Everyone's going to say family and friends, but all of the things that you love, all the culture that you love, whether that's been come into your life from film or wherever it is, I think people are really appreciating this artistic culture we've built, and I'm hoping that it again, that it kind of opens up the doors for us independent artists to, have a little bit broader of a reach.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Carole, what do you think about this?
Yeah, well, kind of touching on what Cory was saying, like, when you're saying how people, now that they're having more time to reevaluate their lives and what's around them, not too many things are sticking out. I wonder too, it's like if people are looking what they have and what they've done and realizing they are not leaving much of a legacy, and you've seen that as motivation to try out new artistic hobbies or venues. But I definitely think entertainment is great. I think it's for a lot of people serving as like a numbing agent, just to kind of pass the time and distract themselves. I know that's what I've been doing. Like definitely I have like days of like lots of productivity and then days where I can like barely lift myself from bed, and just coming to terms with that too, right? Because I think being someone who does have her fingers in a lot of different pies, there's that guilt and that judgment of myself sometimes for letting myself, for numbing myself with Netflix and what have you.
Yeah.
How long does that last for you? How long does that guilt like hang in you? Because you feel the same thing. Like, sometimes it's days, sometimes it just depends.
Yeah, days. I would be lucky to say it varied and alternated day by day, but sometimes it could be a whole week. And the other edge of the social media is that sometimes you see other people being super productive during the time when you're super lethargic, and you're like, damn it, But when you post something about yourself, you might be contributing to that mania, that hysteria as well. So there's that about social media that we have to be careful about as well.
Yeah.
I had a teacher when I was really young, who was a fantastic man. He gave me a lot of great advice, and I came into him as a young man with that problem, like, I didn't practice. I haven't been practicing. I feel so bad. I just haven't felt like it. And there was this horrible, horrible guilt all the time. And I still get it. It's still not gone. But he always said that if you don't feel like, and this is the quote, if you don't feel like fucking practicing, don't fucking practice. Just feel like it's a job and it's weighing you down. Disassociate that, because it's what you love to do. And the more pressure you put on yourself to do it, the less you're going to want to do it.
Yeah. Right. I think that goes back to something you were saying earlier, how when you approach like an artistic sphere or stream from an academic point of view, like sometimes it's so regimented that it takes out the love and the creativity out of it. Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Now, this question's kind of interesting. If you could go back in time or forward in time, if you will, to any area of art or entertainment where it was thriving or maybe not thriving, what era would you want to be in and why? Which is a huge question. I know it's not like an easy one to think about, but do you have any ideas, Cory, of maybe kind of what area you'd want to be situated in?
I don't know. I'm a little all over the map on that one. I guess it just depends. I would have to say probably in the last century for sure. Because I feel, especially in my field, in music, well, and definitely in, I guess, all fields really, but I'm only experiencing it in one, that we've come so far in 100 years of what used to be acceptable as music or art or dance or what literally anything.
Yeah.
And to what it is now, the tools, the technology, all of that stuff. I think that I'd love to be on right at the creation of the instruments that I like to use. So, 60s, early 70s, when people started designing these synthesizers, nobody knew what the hell they were.
Yeah.
Or what the heck is this? This is never going to catch on. Nobody cares about this stuff. And just to see where it's come now, if I could live in that era and be a part of that early kind of electronic music surge, I think that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, would be really, really interesting to see kind of how it progressed, especially if you're able to go back in time knowing still what you know now and being like,
where we're going to go. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, time traveling, that's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would want to come back, though. I wouldn't want to stay dead.
Right. No.
With my cell phone service and
yeah, the quality of life we're used to is now is a good time.
Yeah. And Carole, what about yourself? What era would you want to be in?
Yeah, so I think 2 time periods. So around the 1960s, because that's when go-go dancing first started taking off. And it would have been really interesting to see and been part of that even for a little bit and then come back to this time period. But yeah, it first started just off like girls dancing on tabletops at a restaurant, I think, or a speakeasy. And the restaurant owner was just like, you know what, they look like they're having so much fun. Maybe I should pay them. And I think nowadays, sometimes go-go dancing, like if you look at the Ultra Angels who perform at Ultra Music Festival, it's become this whole industry. And I know they're having fun when they're performing, but it's become such a business. There's so much focus on the body and the appearance, the aesthetic of the girl, that sometimes I think the fun is taken out of it.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to just see it when people are just purely dancing for the pure joy of it and part of that. Also, I think I'd want to experience what life was like during the Tulip Mania in the Netherlands. Do you guys remember that?
I don't think so.
It was like spoken briefly of in a book somewhere, but apparently there was like this economic bubble around tulips. Everyone loved tulips and they were investing so much money in them. And they're also commissioning a lot of art for tulips. And so poor people, rich people, they would just gather around these paintings of tulips and just be in so much awe. And there wasn't any other distractions that was the one thing what everyone was looking forward to. And I would just want to be part of that just to see how much pure joy they were getting out of something so simple for us.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Holland?
No, I haven't. I've been to Europe, but not to Holland. That's my next.
Well, I highly recommend. But yeah, when you're coming in on the train, when I was coming into Amsterdam, you're just rolling through miles and miles and miles of different colored tulips. You can see it is trippy. Just these massive swabs of color.
That's everywhere.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're so vibrant too, right? Like bulbs are so yes, apparently they don't have anyone picking those tulips right now because of the pandemic, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, that would be such a cool experience to see that, like you said, Cory, like to just go down on a train, especially too, and just be sitting there and looking at the rainbow of colors. Yeah, absolutely. I think for myself, it'd be really interesting. I think I would want to go back to the era. I keep saying era of like Baroque music and kind of before the Renaissance, because I mean, I would not want to definitely not live in that era because I would probably die in like 10 years of the plague or something. But I think it would be really cool because that was, obviously the life before technology, and a lot of it was for pure entertainment value only, really, right? And a lot of it, they had nothing to do other than music and art. But some of the art you see is just like, it's absolutely incredible. And the fact that most of these people, especially the musicians, learned most of it by just like by ear. They weren't really like, some of them were blind and some of them were deaf. Like you hear all the stories about all the child prodigies, but it's just kind of crazy. Like I could never imagine myself now going there and being like, it would just be, I think it'd be a completely different world, like just completely different. I don't think I could.
You got to rely on yourself, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So my next question is, how do you guys think that artists can encourage consumers to support more local music and art? I think this is a huge struggle in this day and age. So what do you think maybe we as artists can do collectively, maybe to encourage more local art, music, dance, entertainment, and all that?
I feel like there needs to be more, like better promotion of it. Like, I don't know. Like, for example, we have so many great artists. Like, one of the guests I interviewed for my show, Lizette Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
She was saying how, like, she knows of so many talented, amazing artists that you would think could win, like, Junos or Grammys, but no one really goes to see them. Because in Calgary, we just know of those big events that are publicized on radios, etc. And that's all we know. Unless you know someone part of the industry, you wouldn't have information otherwise. So maybe getting it out there on the radios,
Mm-hmm.
television, but I know that's like a money thing, right? A lot of people don't. But
Yeah.
maybe if broadcasting channels be open to lowering the bar a bit in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually know in Edmonton here, it was for a short, well, actually, I think it was for a few years. They used to have something called a local spotlight on a certain radio station. Yeah, a sonic radio. So every month they would feature a local artist and they would play their music on the radio, and they would talk about this local artist and be like, check out Scenic Route to Alaska this month. And it was just like, it was an amazing program. And I think it stopped, unfortunately, but like, it was just like such an awesome thing. And I think, yeah, like you said, more radios and broadcasts just need to consider that, like, just give them an hour, like give them 1 hour of local music. That's all we're asking for the day. Just 1 hour of local music. Maybe it's at like 9 p.m. because you don't want to risk your hot selling times, but I think a lot of people would love to listen to that more than they think, right? So
to be fair, I feel like I do remember hearing one local artist on like the Calgary Top 40 station that's being advertised, but I don't know if there's like many venues that they talk about where she's performing. Whereas I remember in Edmonton, they used to have, what's that house that was like near Chinatown by the penitentiary, or it was like old and decrepit. A lot of people would gather there. It was like a 2-story house.
Oh.
The aviary? It's called
Aviary.
Aviary now, but it was something else before.
It used to be the Artery. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes,
yeah. Yeah.
And that was a great place for like local artists and art shows all the time. I don't know if Calgary really has anything like that. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not as in tune with the community here.
Yeah. What do you think, Cory, about that? What do you think that we could do maybe as artists to kind of help with that consumption and making everything more local?
Free beer.
For example,
that would do it.
I didn't think about it, you get a free beer. You show up to the show. I don't know. That has been something that in various forms I've struggled with forever. It's difficult to get people to care about what you do, especially in a local sense. It's really interesting. If Instagram is a test ground for this, which is how I met you here. Most of my followers don't live in the city; they live all over the world in other places, and I feel like it's sexier to them seeing the view out of my window in Chicago because they're not here. Where people in Chicago are like, yeah, I know where you are. I live down the street.
That's a good point.
It's tough, and I've seen the same thing, playing shows in other cities or other countries where, this band is from New York. You automatically are cooler because they're in New York and you're in Boise.
Yeah, that's true.
It's tough. It is hard to get local people to come out because they live with you. They're part of your community.
Ooh. Actually, I'm kind of curious. Sorry to interrupt you, because I know in Calgary we make a big complaint about people not venturing out and discovering new artists because it's so cold here. Yeah. So, like, especially with winter for 6 months, like, who wants to be a bar hopping on a Friday night when it's -30? But I was wondering, it might be better or different, like somewhere warmer in Chicago. Are you guys warmer than us?
I mean, we're probably slightly warmer than you, but it still gets. We have 8-month winters.
Okay.
It's cold all the time. It's still cold outside right now. That, it's interesting because I lived in New York City before I lived here, and New York just in general has more of a nightlife. People go out. They go out and they do things. Everybody's in a smaller space and they don't want to be home, so they're constantly
cruising. And there's more foot traffic, right? Yeah, people are just out on the streets.
Chicago's a big city, but it's still not New York, and it doesn't have that same vibe. You can easily live in a house with a yard here and be within the city limits. That doesn't really exist when you live in New York proper.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a difference in culture. At least I've seen different cities, different cultures, different expectations when they go out. Monetarily, it can be expensive. Time-wise, I don't know. It's an age-old question. How do we get people to care about the artists that are around them that enrich, the culture in their city or their area? And that's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I think as artists, we're still trying to figure out that answer and the formula, right? But I think with, the newer generations that start to come in, I think, well, I like to hope that eventually, because they've been born with technology. I know for myself, I was born in 94, so technology was starting to kind of really flourish, and it was out there, but it wasn't fully developed where everyone knew how to use a cell phone. Like, we had dial-up, so it was very different. Yeah, you'd be like, Mom, get off the computer, get off the phone, I need to go on the computer. So different world. So I think with this new generation being fully from birth, mostly they're on their iPads. You see 2-year-olds in restaurants on iPads and you're like, wow. I think it'll really have a shift. I don't know what the shift will be, but I think there'll be hopefully a positive shift for these people, and with kind of the art and the entertainment side maybe really becoming more local. I hope, but you never know. They could surprise us.
I feel like I see kids, teenagers who are more eco-friendly, more sustainably minded. So hopefully that carries through.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. And even, I know this is hilarious, but my bandmate and I are on TikTok, so we kind of venture through, and we're both 26, so we're like, oh gosh, this is kind of cringy a little bit. But I've noticed the younger generation, they're really supportive of one another, and they really don't like bullying, and they're most of them, but and a lot of the time I see them bringing back these old songs, some songs from maybe when I was younger, or even before that, when my parents' generation, and they remix it, and they make a dance routine to it, and it's just crazy how they're kind of tastefully doing it, so where they're appreciating the music, and it's just, to me, I'm just surprised, honestly. I would think that they'd be into their own thing. But it's great. I'm all here for it. All right, so that's actually our last question for the day. We are out of time. I want to thank you both for being a part of the show. We're so lucky to have had you on.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you guys at home are watching on YouTube, this Table Talk, make sure to subscribe, and hit the bell button to be notified about all our shows. We post them every Monday to Friday. And we also have a podcast. So if podcasts are more your style, check out the Vienna Whyte podcast, so you can physically listen to this roundtable chat today just on Spotify instead. So before we sign off here, could I get you all once again to say your name and where our audience can find you on social media? So can we start this off with Carole?
Yeah, so my name again is Carole, but on Instagram I'm of millennial, and I think I spelled of millennial wrong, so there's one S N. If you type of OFM, you'll find me.
Perfect.
My name's not attached though, and I also have a podcast Instagram account called The Commie Tea Room. It's a little clickbaity, but yeah, we like talking about social and culture, so hopefully you like it.
Awesome. And Cory?
You can find me on Instagram at Red Stripe Down. That's just one word. It's a stupid synth joke. So, I do have a YouTube channel as well, but I haven't posted anything to it in a long time. But I do have new music on Bandcamp, redstripedown.bandcamp.com. And if you message me on there and you saw this podcast, or this YouTube video, you can have my entire music library for free.
Hey.
Just, yeah, why not? Hey, we got to get ourselves out there. That's the whole point of this thing. Right?
Exactly.
Check it out. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.